So, I'm occasionally going to be bringing this back to my Iceland trip. I'm going to make a video about all the points. I was going to make like a structured video, but I figured I'd just do it live and make a highlight out of it. So this bit here looks a lot like the first area I was in. Let me bring up the old Google Earth. So it kind of reminds me of this like whole area here. Big like black lava field with these like reddish hills. Up close they look really red. So the start of the trip was at a place called Landmannalaugar. So I had to take a bus from Reykjavik, which is a rad city, by the way. I would recommend checking it out. From Reykjavik, 3.5 hour bus ride, and the bus has like these massive like 4x4 wheels on and shit, because it has to get over all this like insane terrain. It's like this is a main road, and then this is just a dirt track. They take you all the way up here, and then they drop you off. Here, Landmannalaugar. Find some images. Looks like that. So this, if you zoom in, there's a guy wearing a horse's head. Tal Maverick, what's going on, dude? Hey, my name's Sam too. So this this picture here, the starting point was down there, along that flat, and it was taken from like roughly here. No, further along actually, probably here. I click this. Hang on, can you see photos? There's layers. Yes, you can. Look at that. It's better than any photo I took. So they drop you here. So it's a campsite usually. What lots of people do is stay. You can see all the buses and stuff here. Lots of people stay there. There's even a hot spring as well, which we didn't get to try out because we were running late. But you can actually like go swimming in it and stuff. And there's a sheep going for a swim. Where's that it there? It's like a natural hot spring. Like you can go swimming in it. But because it was literally the start of the journey, what you get is you get people sometimes do it from south to north, finish in the north, and then finish in the hot spring. But me and my friends decided to do it north to south. So we weren't, we were all refreshed and stuff, so didn't really want to just jump in a hot spring before we set out. So we tracked over all of this. Some of these pictures are sick. Some of these are better than mine. I had a bunch of mine queued up, but that's one I took. That's actually not bad. You can kind of see there, look. You can kind of see the track moving off in the distance. Put that down there on that flat is the starting point.
Okay.
And it kind of reminded me of this. Looks like we're all going to be living when global warming kicks in. God. Because Is Icelandic in any way similar to Welsh? Sounded similar? Or is it just Nordic? No, they have very different family trees. They come from 2 different places, I think. There's probably more similarity between English and Icelandic than there is Welsh and Icelandic. So I actually looked this up after the stream because I was interested, but Icelandic and English are more closely related because they're both Germanic languages, whereas Welsh sits up here underneath the Celtic branch of Indo-European languages. So it's not really related to either, for anyone who cares about that kind of stuff. Will I do Sam cosplay next time I'm there? I sort of tried to. Like, do a functional cosplay. Because, you know, I needed the kit I was wearing to actually work, right? So I couldn't go and buy a cosplay offline or whatever. I bought a jacket that was blue, like navy and blue, like Sam's. I bought a rain cover that was yellow, so it was like a Bridges yellow, and I bought like a little bag, like a little yellow bag, like that one Sam's got there. My boots as well. They're almost kind of like Bridges boots. This is about kit as well, isn't it? Let me grab my boots real quick. So if you're ever looking for a boot that isn't... So you could either go with like a hiking boot, which is like super rigid and it'll like protect you on really uneven terrain like this, which is probably a good idea. But you want something that's waterproof, ideally breathable, because if you're going to be walking like 60 miles in it, you want it to be breathable. What I went for was, there's a company make boots, they're called Palladium. And they almost look like a jungle boot. They do lots of different styles, but this is the ones that I went for. They had like super thick soles on the bottom. These are all battered now, pretty much from that trip. But they're lightweight, waterproof, breathable. The trade-off is that there's a good bit of support because it's a high ankle, but it's not as good a support as you'd get from like, you know, a proper hiking boot. But that's just the risk I took with using those instead. Because if you roll your ankle when you're in the middle of nowhere, you're pretty fucked. So it's a bit risky. But then again, my mate Luke actually just wore like trainers like this, like running trainers or whatever. The logic was he could wear them through rivers and stuff, walk through the rivers wearing them, and they would dry off quickly. But that was his thinking. Like, he's like, right, my feet are going to get wet anyway, may as well wear something comfortable and lightweight, even more lightweight. So he went even further in the opposite direction. And then my mate George, he went, I don't know if he wore his hiking boots or if he took my advice and went with the Palladium style. I don't know, but those are your options, basically. Crocs are a no-go. You actually see people, like, on hiking trails with, like, Crocs. Not hiking in Crocs, but it's nice to have at the end of the day. Get your boots off and have something to wear at the end of the day, you know? That's dry and comfortable. Let your feet be free. You'd use a cheap pair of canvas slip-ons from H&M. I mean, you'd be comfy. Sheer metal timed to your feet, would that work as a boot? I mean, you can give it a go, right? You can give it a go. Outdoor hiking Crocs. I bet they do them. I bet those exist. Hell, I'd buy them. I'd use them. You're talking about my sort of functional cosplay there. Color hints like an M. Shyamalan movie. That was the M. Shyamalan twist, you know? I was cosplaying Sam the whole time. Off-road Crocs, Ben? Ben, do you own a pair of Crocs? I bet you do. You strike me as a croc owner. Tell you what, one thing going to Iceland maybe appreciating. Going to lots of countries actually as well. Germany as well as another one. So in the UK we have these maps, right, by it's like a semi-government organization called Ordnance Survey, and they make all of our maps. And the quality on them is amazing. You can take them out. Ben will attest, right? You take them out in the rain. They're like thick but light, and just the texture's really nice, and they get wet and they dry off real quick. They're really good. Most countries have an equivalent, and all the ones I've tried, so Iceland, Germany, Spain, Austria, they're all shit in comparison to British maps, like without a doubt. So yeah, so getting maps for the route I was doing in Iceland was a pain, because I knew that if I took them out, that luckily a lot of it's like signposted and stuff. It's fairly easy to navigate. Most of it anyway. Some parts are quite difficult, but I knew if I bought a local map and it rained, I knew it'd just be a freaking napkin in the space of 20 minutes. I kept a lot of the maps on my phone actually, which obviously brings its own problems because you need battery packs, especially if you're out in it for 5 days, you know, and if you're filming as well, you need to take a whole bunch of battery packs. So I had like 4 on me, which adds to the weight. Nope, didn't mean to do that.
Okay. Let's just sit here for a second.
Is it my PC or the 4070 making it look great? It's like you're watching on the monitor. Game looking amazing. Well, I'm glad to hear it. Could be the new encoder, yeah. Could be the new encoder, prof. Could be NVENC. So not only is my graphics card better now, but I'm also using that graphics card to encode the image and push it out to Twitch. Whereas before I was using my CPU to do that. So when I say about your maps, it's shit, mate. I'm sorry. But, you know, just not up to snuff. They're just nothing. I've just been spoilt by British Ordnance Survey maps. So I added the redeems back in, and the notifications for the redeems. But I forgot to add the sound effect that warned me. Oh god, there's a bowler gun! Could have used that. No, I couldn't. I was thinking of the sticky gun. Can't use the bowler gun. Leave it off? Leave the sound effect off? I added the sound effect in as like a way to make it fair. So that I give it like I have a chance to like stop what I'm doing and let it happen. As opposed to trying to circumvent it and make it so it doesn't happen. Maybe I'll leave it off. Maybe I'll leave it off.
Thanks, Sam. We'll talk later.
Many delivery bots in IRL Iceland? No. Unfortunately not.
Delivery bots will benefit everyone.
I did see
Cities and way stations to preppers out in the back.
I did see a couple of 4x4s. So
Must be exhausted.
the way stations,
Break. I bet your BB
which are on the route that I took,
head for the private room.
they're in the middle of nowhere, like literally. So, but you can like buy supplies there and stuff. They sell like instant noodles, chocolate bars, the most expensive beer you will ever buy in your life, that kind of thing. And it's all super expensive, and the reason is for them to resupply it, they need to send like 4x4s, like up the mountains and through the rivers and shit to resupply it. But no bots, but 4x4s. But I did see some porters making deliveries. And I did see as well, there was like a race going on like a cross country, like almost like motocross race. I actually got a text as well, from the Icelandic police on the morning that the race was happening, just to say that the race was happening to, I don't know, don't get run over or something. I don't know. Anyway, I'm gonna grab a drink, cup of tea. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna play an episode of my Iceland series. And then I'm going to take a look at the route for the first day after I've played the first episode. And then we'll jump on with some more Death Stranding. So bear with me a moment. Books and movies provide only virtual experiences. I was saying how different it probably is to hear me, speak in a curated and, scripted manner. My thoughts down on paper. How different it is to actually hear me stream when I'm effing and jeffing and being toxic as fuck on COD. I bet the difference is huge. Anyway, here's the route. So this is the first day. So I said earlier, right, we got dropped off at Landmanalauga. Also, yeah, I'm amazed at how good it looks as well. That's the NVENC encoding for you, man. It's good. So this is the first day, pretty much. So this was the starting point. And then it was up over all of these hills that you just saw in the video, with the moss trying to grow down in the valleys. Like I said, it gets higher and higher, and it's more snowy up in this region. Until then, this was the end point here, basically in front of this lake. The route. So as the crow flies, that's got to be. Let's have a look. How many miles it is as the crow flies. Sound like I'm in a meerkat documentary. So as the crow flies, that is 10.9 miles as the crow flies. But yeah, it ain't gonna be 10 miles. It's gonna be far more than that. It's probably gonna be closer to 12 to 15 maybe. And yeah, I had to jog up the hills. I had to jog back up the hills to get the camera every time. And on the first few days, it was fine because I would do that, no problem. We were in no rush, right? We were just taking our time. There's like 22 hours of daylight or something ridiculous. It doesn't get dark at all at that time of year. At this time of year, the sun dips below the horizon, as I said in the video, and it comes straight back up. It doesn't get completely dark. It just turns to twilight for about an hour and a half, and then it's just rising again. It's a weird experience. I went a whole week without darkness. Now these guys, they do it for basically like 4 or 5 months of the year, like that's the norm for them. But it was just weird having that for, a whole week basically. Was I saying? Yes, going back to the camera. On the last day, though, on the last 2 days, my friend Luke, he was really, really ill. What we think happened was he drunk some water, because the water is really fresh and clean in Iceland. But so like we didn't have to worry about water because we could just collect it as we went from like the streams and stuff, because it's all just glacial meltwater for the most part. But there was one point where Luke had a drink and me and George, we didn't. And it made him sick. It was very kind of, I think it was too much sulfur in it or something. You'd go mad and no 3 a.m. fridge raid because it's always dawn dusk. Oh yeah, it was a bizarre feeling, really weird. But yeah, so Luke basically was on the last day, he was sick. So we were trying to get to the end point without really delaying, because if we stopped, he might worsen and we were in the middle of nowhere on the top of a volcano. So like getting him down would, yeah, it would have been a nightmare. So you'll notice that the last couple of episodes, they have none of those fancy walking away shots or shots of us like walking over bridges or crossing rivers or anything like that. It's all literally me moving because we have to go at a pace. You know, we can't be stopping for too long. So all of the shots in the last two episodes are all me moving or like going ahead and then just like filming stuff because I couldn't do any of those like walk back shots or whatever. So yeah, this bit not too bad. It's a slow, steady increase, and you eventually make your way up here. I think it is. You can kind of see there. That's like a hill there. And when you get there, that's the view. It's this view. Let me get it up. When you're at this point here, this is basically what you can see. So you've moved across all of the black lava field, and it looks black like sand, but it's actually all rocky like this. Nah, Luke couldn't hold his sulfur. No, exactly. Exactly. So once you're across all of this, you're then up into these sort of rusty hills. And you're relatively close there to the actual camp. So like I say, people get the bus in, they'll stop here, and then they'll hike the surrounding area instead of doing the whole full go south like we did. So what you've got is look at all these Google Earth pictures, look. There's so many people have been in this area. And then as you get further south, the pictures get more and more sparse. I actually used these to plot out. So where there's a big cluster of photos, people are on the path, right? People are on the track. So I used that when I was plotting out the actual route that we took. But unfortunately, like I say, I rebuilt my PC and I lost it, and I'd painstakingly gone through and pretty much mapped it to the meter. But unfortunately, I lost it. But you can kind of see here, look, you see this track? This line just moving down the back of the hill. Proper cinematography mindset. Props for taking the thought. Yeah, I mean, like I said, you know, I wasn't in the rush. I wanted to get it right. If I'd done it, you know, if I could, I would have like taken a drone and stuff, because you want to see some of the drone shots that people do in this area. It's just unreal. It's beautiful. It's all these just rust-colored hills, man. Like, look at these colors. Like, that's what it looks like. This has probably had very minimal editing. You know, you've got, you know, these red hue hills with the green moss and just the snow peaks in the background. It's like you're walking across Mars. Like this first bit, that's what it was like. It's how I picture Mars would look like. Your mates would have no record of your snowboarding trips if you didn't do the same. Yeah, I'm kind of that guy as well in the group. I'm that guy who'll, I generally plan it, and I'm the one who'll like take all the photos and stuff as well. So yeah, there is a monument, and I couldn't find it on here. Basically, someone died up in these hills, like 2005 or something. It's like an Israeli hiker. He got caught in a whiteout, in a blizzard, basically. Got turned around and he died of hypothermia. And there's like a cairn up on the hills. There's like a memorial to him. And the horrible thing about it is it's up here somewhere on this sort of this plateau. Because the horrible thing is he was maybe like 20 minutes away from help, essentially, which is the tragic thing. And he was like up on this here. this shelf. But like, there's all these rivers just run through the gullies, and they create like little caves in the snow. So here's me posing in a cave. But they'll run down off the hill, and where they'll just like cut through the snow, and they'll just create caves, and they're really, really cool. They're all over the place. So this is from the inside. It's my buddy Luke. Yeah, so about halfway, at the halfway point, there's this hut. Like I say, it's just like a little hut top of the mountain. You can buy supplies there. It's all super expensive because to get to it, they need to send up like a 4x4 or whatever. But you know, if you're ever in a pinch, you can buy some stuff there. So that's where we stopped for dinner. So as you go a bit further south, the mosses start to become a bit thicker. Fuck, man. It's so big. That was just the halfway point. Took us like all day. Maybe 8 or 9 hours, something like that. Lot of up and down. And then eventually, you know, you cross some rivers, up and down some mountains and stuff, some smaller peaks, some bigger ones. And then eventually it just like just falls away, and then in front of you you've got you've got this. This was on a sunny day. It was very cloudy for me, so I couldn't see this far south. But it just falls away, and you've got the lake down there in the distance. You've got the glaciers of the volcanoes further south, so it's Katla. That's the easy one to pronounce. And then the one that everyone struggles pronouncing, the one that erupted in like 2010, is Eyjafjallajökull. Eyjafjallajökull. There we go. Something like that. It falls away, and then it's all downhill then, after just hours of just up and down. This river, this is where we crossed the river. The one that was in the video, like that first one where I talk about like it being super cold. But this is the river. I bet someone's taken a photo of it. They must have done. This is the river. It was quite low there. You could just hop across that, but when we were there, all of this was water. Yeah, so that's that. You make your way, follow the river for a little bit. You'll then come down to the lake. So there's another hut here, another place you can buy some stuff. We came right down here though and just camped as close to the water's edge as we could. So all of this down here is quite swampy. So we just sort of stayed in this region here. And I've got a picture of our camp. Let me get it up. So this is the so that's our tents and stuff there. And then that's the backdrop. I didn't get a good picture of my tent setup, how I do it. Closest I've got is this one. That's Adam on sleep right there. So I don't take a tent. So when we first arrived at Reykjavik, before we were setting off, we stayed at a campsite in the city. So there's a campsite in the city center that you can stay at. So before we set off, that's where we stayed. So I don't use a tent. I use a piece of tarp, like a tarpaulin. DD tarp, yeah, Ben's got it. So it's a 3 meter by 3 meter And what I do is I kind of make a teepee out of it. You can sort of see it there, but it's all open. Hang on, I've probably got a better picture of it actually. There we go. It's a better picture. So what I do is I just put the pole in the middle and have the tent, the tarp just kind of like coming down, pinned down around it. So there's one center pole, and then the tarp just comes around it. The benefits are, actually this is slightly different. So what happened was Luke set up his tent and we put the tarp over it and put all our like gear and stuff in the tent and then slept under the tarp. So it's slightly different, but that's a bit more accurate. So the pole's in the middle. It's there. I put my jacket on it to dry out. And then you just splay the tarp over the top, peg it all down, and then it's really, really good at like withstanding high winds and stuff and rain. So it's super, super waterproof, super breathable as well. So you don't get none of that if you go hiking or camping or whatever, when you get all the condensation in the morning and stuff. You don't get any of that, which is great. It you know, it's super dry, really resistant to the wind. Nice and cool as well. So if it's not stuffy like a tent, you're quickly in and out. You can set it up to, you know, look at a nice view and stuff. So I'm always all about the tarp setup as opposed to the tent. So that's what I took. The boys took tents though. But if anyone's ever considered doing something like this and you're looking for a tent, I definitely recommend the tarp setup. Is the city built up area? Looks blissfully unpopulated. I mean, it's the capital city, right? But it's like a town. It's like a large town, as opposed to like a big metropolitan city. There's a couple of, let's take a look. So there's a few. Like Iceland's population's tiny. So it's about this big, right? This is Reykjavik. I don't know how to compare it in scale to something, but you know, there's suburbs out here where there are houses, and then, you know, this is the city center essentially. This is where you're going to come if you want to do touristy bits. There's a few sort of high-rise buildings, but it's not, you know, it's not massive. Yeah, it's not very big at all. You could walk from one side to the other. Well, to put it into perspective, where did we stay? No, I can't even remember. But here somewhere, I think. Yeah, basically, we were right on the outskirts of town, and we could walk to and from the center in half an hour. You could walk the length of Reykjavik in an hour and a half, 2 hours, easy. A really small town, really small city, but it's like the size of a large town. So that's the lake we stayed in front of, and then this is a picture of it from the following morning, because when we arrived, it was covered in fog and clouds. This is it the following morning, basically. You just see right across, it's just like glass. Unreal. 10-mile scenic walks with the 5 guys at the end. Do you know, Iceland, Reykjavik doesn't even have, like, doesn't have any McDonald's or anything like that. Does have a Domino's, which saved my ass from a couple of hangovers on a couple of occasions.
Hey, come and get me.
They didn't hear it. They didn't hear it. Ooh, there was grass like this in Iceland as well, like this long, with all the tufts on it. I know it's just grass, but it actually looked a lot like this. Have you guys seen that freaking geoguesser? That dude guessing countries based on grass. Have you seen that shit? Fucking wild. Anyway, it illustrates my point. Look, grass can be different. I'm not just like tenuously trying to make links to Iceland here. It's like, ooh, Iceland had grass. Like it actually had that like specific kind of grass. Anyway. Oh no 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 no. Icelandic, yeah, Iceland had tents as well. Like, this is a tent, and Iceland had tents as well. See, yeah.
Have a pleasant journey.
Sound like you? Grass, huh? Let me tell you what I know about grass. Oh, we got spare boots as well. Container repair spray. Get on my back.
Have a pleasant journey.
Actually, I may as well just keep going this way. Fuck! They rumbled me, boys. We're out of here.
I'm right here.
They already know. Run, Sam! Oh, fucking...
What you looking for, dumbass?
Hello. Thanks, Sephiroth.
Right on.
Yeah, so it's kind of randomized, right? So you'll move into an area, and the game will almost like seed that area with other players' stuff. Signs of other players and things. There are paths that get tread into the ground, so you can see... you can see there, look. Where the ground's being worn away. It's the same ever so slightly there on the other side, but it's more pronounced like running down the middle of that bit of land. And this is a very deep path there, look. Move into that point because that's the narrowest point of the river. That's where everyone's naturally going to gravitate towards to cross it. So the more people move in a specific route, the more a path gets tread into the ground, basically. So like when you first start the game, these paths won't be here. And then, yeah, as you go further on, as more people tread those paths, the more of a path it becomes. It's the same in the snow as well. I spoke about that in the first episode of my video, but basically the more people that walk across a path, especially in snow, they'll gouge out a path for you. And in the game, in the snow, you can move through the snow at a normal pace if there's a path there. On rocky ground, so like there would have been more rocks here probably, I suspect. the more people move through a specific point, it like wears the rocks away. Wears the rocks away, and it clears a direct path instead of you having to climb over rocks and stuff. And that's what it was like when I was in Iceland. If I was following a well-trodden path, it made the going a hell of a lot easier. And that's true of the game as it is. That's as true in the game as it is with real hiking, basically. If anyone's wondering, you're not familiar with Death Stranding, I play a sort of self-imposed rule set called OSP. So basically, I don't fabricate any of my own equipment. That's the #1 rule. Don't create anything myself. I only use what's been donated to the shared lockers by other players, or what I find in the world that have been dropped by other players. Adds just a level of difficulty into the game when, like me, you've played it for, 1,000, maybe 2,000 hours or something. It makes you have to really plan your journeys and stuff as well. Like, this is pretty much the only way through this to where I'm going, is through this valley. But if I was in a different area where I had the option of going around, I probably would, because I didn't have any weapons, because I don't have any weapons.
Easy now.
Fuck! I literally tripped up so I couldn't hold my breath. Alright, I'm not going back for those old bucks. Bollocks to that. Fuck's sake. Ah. Oh no. Oh no. Fuck. Oh god. Package floating away like Wilson, yeah. No, we're good, we're good, we're good, we're good. We're out of there. We're gone. Oh god. That was spicy. Oh god, we're not out of the woods yet. Oh. We're out of the woods. Limbs absolutely threw my cargo down the river. How did you know? Mario Kart, welcome back, mate. Alright, guys. I'm gonna take another short break, make another cup of tea, and I'm gonna play the second part of the video series. Gotta pause it there. If you look in the background, see that white t-shirt? That's George emerging from behind a rock after having taken a shit. I didn't realize until I'd edited it all up and put it up on YouTube that was George. Who is in chat right now. I had to out you, bro. I just had to. So that's like, you're like the Yeti, you know, that famous video of the Yeti being like caught walking through the trees? That's you, just in the distance. So talking about going back to get the camera. This particular shot here. George and Luke were a little bit... We were sat here for ages, basically. See, there's a guy at the very top there. I was waiting for that guy to leave so that I could get the shot of us all walking up the side of the gorge. And then I had to go back for the camera. And as I went back, there was a guy behind us. And he was like shouting. He was like, hey, you forgot your camera. And I got that. I was like, no, I didn't forget the camera. I know it was there. I knew it was there. Yeah, sorry for outing you there, George. I had to, mate. That just made me laugh, dude. This day was super flat. It was, compared to the previous day, which is all up and down, this was like super flat. I want to tell everyone about the shit in the Black Forest. I've probably told you guys about this shit that I've had. Basically, it was the best shit I've ever had in my life. It was the best. So we'd taken shot. There was a absolute blizzard, right? Complete whiteout. We were in the middle of the Black Forest, and in order to not die, we had to break into this shack. So the bottom floor was all locked up, but there was a window on the top floor. It's just like a wooden cabin, basically. It's like a hunter's shack. The top floor, the attic, had like a little window. So Luke, funnily enough, the guy who was on this trip with me, he managed to climb in and realized that it was open. The whole building was closed off, was locked up, apart from that one little hatch at the top. Anyway, so we climbed in there. To get in there, we needed to get this bench, plop it up against the side of the building, and then like scramble up. So we all went inside. The problem is, when we were inside, that was it. We were there for the night because we couldn't go outside. So I was like busting for a poo, but I decided to hold it in and just try to go to sleep. Just went to sleep. And then when morning came, it was like all fresh snow all over the ground. I clambered down out of the shack, went into the woods, and had the best poo ever. It was amazing because I'd been busting to go, but it was just like, you know, after the snow's fallen and like in the woods, it's all like serene and calm, and there's like not a sound. It's just peaceful. It was the best. Happy now, George? I'm telling everyone about my poo story. I made 5 of you wait 20 minutes so I could enjoy his moment. Stood there in the snow, freezing the whole time. Yeah, that's true. That happened. I did make you all wait. I weren't rushing it, man. You can't rush art. You can't rush art, bro. You can't rush peace and serenity. So anyway, This episode, so the first episode was called Fotspor, which is footsteps. And then this episode I called Eidmork, which is desert. You can't rush arse. No, exactly, you can't. So we started the day here by this lake. We followed this track for a little bit. The first part of the day was super easy. Where we stopped for some coffee was shit. Where was it? That triangular mountain. That's this here. Called Storosula. And if you look at it from that angle, it just looks triangular, right? Suspiciously triangular. But this is where we stopped just to have a look. It's this little river here, actually, I think. Little rivulet. There it is. So that's looking at it from the north. And this is where we stopped. Literally, this was like not even a mile into the day. We stopped real early in. It's like as the crow flies. It's it's like half a mile as the crow flies. We stopped half a mile into the day. Anyway, it was more or less flat, really chill. There's another hut here which we just came past because it was the start of the day. We were ready to keep going. And then we crossed this river on the bridge, which was amazing. It's right by the waterfall and stuff. So this is that bridge there. That's Luke getting ready to jump from the looks of it. I don't know. But that's it there. It's really cool. Like rapids next to this mountain. It's sick. And then after that, then we came to this river, and it's the one I talked about at the end of the episode. There's this F261. It's a dirt track. So what you've got, when we were moving past, there was actually a 4x4 moving up and down, but it looked like the easiest, at first glance, it looks like the easiest spot to cross. But when you think about it, right, with vehicles moving through the riverbed, they're going to be like making it deeper, right, with the weight and stuff like that. And because it was so fast flowing and deep, we didn't want to cross it there because it would have been too dangerous. So what we did is we came further upstream, and there was actually a couple of hikers moving in the opposite direction. And we were like, right, whereby did you guys cross? And they were like, oh, okay, right there. That's where we crossed. So yeah, we crossed. And yeah, before I'd been setting the camera up, crossing once to get the shot, coming back to get the camera, and then crossing for a third time, right? So you do the trip 3 times in total if you want to get that, that one cool shot of you crossing the river. I was like, nah, that's not worth it, because I could drop the camera, I could fall in myself. I don't want to do this 3 times. So I ended up just doing it the once and just talking about it basically. But yeah, it was that was a hard one. It was really wide. Then once we were on the other side, the reason I called this episode Desert was because you've then got to walk this just absolute massive stretch of basically desert. And the sun had decided to come out as well. So it was, even though it wasn't boiling hot, it was just constantly on your face. And as a result, I actually got a little bit of sunburn on my face because I didn't even think to bring sun cream, basically. So, yeah. If you ever travel to Iceland, you may think you don't need sunscreen, but if you go in the summer, definitely take some anyway. So you're walking in this direction, right? You're walking southeast. And it goes on for what feels like forever. I wonder if Google will show it. But yeah, you've got like over there. Those are the volcanoes, right, that we have to pass between. And the whole time it was just like black roiling clouds just above above those mountains. Like we couldn't even see the top of them, and it was like that because for the whole time, day one, you know, we're coming across all of this. And then day two, we start down here, but the whole time you've got these massive glaciers just looming in the distance, and the whole time they just were completely covered in clouds. And it was just scary because while this was a fairly easy day, it was just more or less flat terrain. I knew that after a couple more days, I'm going to need to hike up and over those mountains for, you know, was it like 1,005 to 2,000 meters or something? It was scary because I was knackered as it was, and I was like, fuck, am I even going to be able to do this in a couple of days' time? But this is the waterfall you cross by here on this bridge, and that waterfall was insane. That's the gorge, but the waterfall just on the left. Like if that bridge wasn't there, you'd have no chance. You'd never be able to cross it. But I mentioned it earlier as well about the police warning about a race. That was the dirt bike. You can like, here it is. You can just see the dust in the distance. Look. World above the mountains of Thorsmork, obscuring their peaks, and a single dirt bike raced across the volcanic desert, giving me a pang of jealousy as I walked with aching feet. The mountains that marked the end of the plain. It's like, oh, I had a bike. Yeah, that was pretty much most of day two. So sort of just moved between these little hills here, crossed a little stream down there, nothing really to write home about. It did start raining. And about this point, I was just ready for bed. I was real tired. There are huts along the way, right? Along the route. And you can, if you want to, you can stay inside the huts, but it's really expensive. We didn't want to do that anyway, so we just like stayed in the tents. And this was the camp on the second night. Me and Luke combined forces like a megazord. Combined his tent with my tarp. We made like a super tent. It was cool. Just kept under there. Lovely night's sleep. But this is the region that we camped in. On that second night. So this is at the camp, sort of looking south. Prometheus. It looks like Prometheus as much as it looks like Death Stranding. It's like the first day it looked like Mars, the second day it looked like whatever the hell planet Prometheus is set on, you know what I mean? Should be alright here. It's pretty narrow here.
2 wheels up.
I thought you were doing secret stuff. Ugh. Oh, I can't put my ass hat on. I can't equip it. I feel like there's actually less BTs here now. I feel like the game's throwing me a frickin' bone. Oh, maybe not. Nope, talking shit. Still loads of BT boys.
Hey.
Hey. I'm Sam. Shut the fuck up, Sam. This is why I needed a ladder. There's a rope right there. That rope is going to be my saving grace. Hang in there, baby. We're nearly there. Oh, God. It's the last one, surely. Surely. Now we're free, I think. Pretty sure. Oh, I was just going to launch straight into that river then. That would have been a bad idea. Oh, come on.
You alright in there?
Yeah, this river's a nightmare. Right. Gonna next a monster. Or I mean, Bridges energy drink. Oh, that was close, Sammy boy. Relatively flat. This here, right there. That's where George had a poo. And if you wanted to know where the deed happened, it was there. So this doesn't kind of cover it very well, but this is kind of like a basin with kind of steep, sharp edges, and this is the edge of it there. This is the Markarfjordur River. So this is basically what we just followed all day, essentially. And roughly around, yeah, it's here, roughly here. I think almost exactly there is where we stopped. And I was telling you about the Icelandic grass. Yeah. But by the day's end. But am I wrong or am I wrong? Or is that not the actual grass from Death Stranding? But either way, yeah, we stopped there and got some sleep. And I'm just trying to find a picture of it now. A little makeshift camp. Spot on, 1-for-1 grass. I wasn't lying. So yeah, we just stopped there. Like, so it's just off the trail. You can see like people walking down the trail over there. And there is the famous Icelandic grass. So that's pretty much there. And then we carried on. You can see it starts to get a little bit more bushy, a little bit more, a few more trees popping up. So basically this region here, this is Thorsmork, labeled right there. Look. Now when the Vikings arrived, they cut every motherfucking tree down on the entire island to make longboats and stuff, right? Whatever it is Vikings will want to make from wood. They just chopped it all down. So this region here, Thorsmork, it's just a valley, basically, a couple of valleys, and you can see it's far greener here on this sort of jut of land in the middle. Basically, it's a reforestation project. So all the trees are quite young. None of them are particularly old. But they're just trying to reforest, repopulate the area with proper woodland. And it's crazy because we spent a couple of days, a few days trekking through this, desert stuff and these red mountains and things. And, there's barely a shrub. You don't see any wildlife whatsoever. It's basically non-existent. And then as you get a bit further down here, where there's trees, you start hearing birds and things like that. Starts getting, so it just turns into something that's like just a lot more familiar, like I said in the video, something more familiar and less alien. And it just like, I don't know, I felt like I could have been walking through anywhere in the UK. Maybe not anywhere, but it felt a lot more similar to something I was used to than back home than Iceland. I sort of lost track kind of where the track was here, but basically that's pictures in the wrong place. This is Einhörninga, the unicorn. This is that mountain. Just crazy, right? I thought it looked like a rhino. Looks more like a rhino to me, but apparently it's called unicorn, so whatever. What do I know? There is also a single house, like in the middle of nowhere, like right there. Which no one appears to have got a picture of. But, oh, there it is, like on the bottom left. It's just like in the middle of nowhere with all of these mountains and glaciers and shit behind it. And it's like, oh man, I would just love to live there. That would be sick. Just totally off grid. Nothing for you around there? Nah, no, definitely no internet connection, that's for sure. Look at it, man. It's fucking wild, And the river just does whatever the hell it wants. It just changes course. It's crazy. Like I said before, you know, so oh, actually I said it in the episode, didn't I? You can see, look, all of this. Like, you may have one or two branches. Like, when this satellite image was taken, there was one main branch. Like, you can see it there. But it changes all the time. Just changes its course up and down. The entire width of this valley. It's insane. So they put it on wheels. They set the bridge on wheels so that they can move it around. Oh, I see what you're saying. I see what you're saying. Yes, the volcano itself got the name of the glacier. That's the glacier. And now that's what the volcano is called. Gotcha. There's that. Thing looks huge. Look at the size on this. So this is the Katla. Little easier to say. Glacier. Which is his bigger brother. It's freaking huge. And that's not even the biggest one. There's this one over here, look. Which is even bigger again. So yeah, we ended the day, the third day basically here at Thorsmork. We camped. So again, we stopped at a hut and just sort of plonked in among the trees here. I got a good picture of the hut as well. Eyjafjallajökull is Icelandic for Island Mountain Glacier. Didn't know that. So that's the hut, and then like just completely obscured by the clouds is the volcano and the glacier. Like, you can't even see it. You can see like a tiny bit of white there, but obviously that doesn't translate to you know, the entirety of all of this. That's how shrouded in cloud it was at the time. Any snowboarding? Do you know what? I don't think there is. I've always wondered why Iceland isn't like a ski resort. I don't actually know. Maybe because it's unstable. Maybe because it's so volcanically active. But I mean, it's erupting right now. This glacier, this volcano is erupting currently, literally as we speak. Too rocky, perhaps, yeah. Too rocky, too unstable, I would suspect. So down here, this is the river where I nearly took a dip. Literally this exact spot. But you can see the river's got a totally different course in this picture than the one it had when I was crossing it. It actually cut all around this bank here instead of, you know, taking this route. You can touch both the American and Eurasian continental plates in Iceland. Sort of. Technically, kind of. It's... I mean, if you zoom out, if you zoom all the way out, you can see the plates there, look. You can see where the plates are coming apart there. And then it forms the mid-Atlantic ridge, look. That's how Iceland was formed, right? It's where the plates are coming apart, and it's, yeah. But it, you know, it's like that. It's like a mesh, right? It's not a perfect line, so there's no real point where you can touch both sides at the same time. It's kind of there's a few points like in Thingvellir National Park which is up here. You can't Maui. It's not. It doesn't work like that. There's points in the plate where So like there's parts here, look, see there are lots of tears in the crust. And it's really profound at Thingvellir. Like this part here, look. I know what you're talking about, and you can't quite. It's there are lots of these little divots between the crust, right? Where the crust to meet. It's like a mesh of stuff. It's not. I don't really know how to articulate it, but my point is, there are places in Iceland where it's very dramatic because you can see like there's a gully, and there's one underwater as well where it's so wide. There's a rift in the plate that's wide enough for you to touch both at the same time, both sides of the rift. That doesn't mean you're touching the Eurasian plate and you're touching the North American plate at the same time. It's not strictly true. I'm just being pedantic, I guess, but do you know what I mean? It's not like this side is the Eurasian plate and then this side is the North Atlantic. Because I mean, look, there's another gully here, you know? It's like, could you do the same there as you can there? There's lots of rifts along the fault line. And that place underwater is just one of those places. That's a fairly dramatic representation of either side, you know what I mean? Not strictly true, but it's cool as fuck, so I'm gonna stop being pedantic about it now. Where was I? Thorsmork. Yeah. I covered. Where did I cover up to? I covered to the peak of the past, didn't I? In the last video, which is I'll see like Magni and Modi. We climbed up this, which is pretty freaking dramatic. It looks very Death Stranding. This shelf here is incredibly flat. And it is 0.6 of a mile long. But you can kind of get a sense for how flat it is compared to the surroundings, right? It's just like a flat shelf. It's ridiculous. And we stopped kind of midway across it. And oh, there we go. That's a pretty good picture showing just how flat it is up there. Yeah, so we stopped. And literally where George was sat, there was a cap, there was someone's cap. And there was a pair of shades, like really nice, sort of expensive looking shades. The kind like, skiers have or whatever. And we had been speaking to someone earlier that day who we thought had those shades and had the cap. Yeah, cap lag was there, yeah. So we saw them, we were like, hey, wasn't it that guy we saw earlier? Aren't they his? So we picked them up and we took them with us. With the idea that we were both headed for the same end point at the same time, because there's only one bus that leaves from Skogar. So we were like, right. And we were speaking to those guys about it, and basically they said they were leaving at the same time as us. So we're like, oh, we should probably bring them with us so we can give them back to him. I wish I'd filmed this because it was kind of another Death Stranding related type thing. But basically, I got on the bus at the end. I put the cap on the side. George lost the sunglasses, so it was just the cap at this point. George had re-lost them. And I just put them on the side of the bus, so as people left the bus, they'd see it and maybe claim it. I was half asleep, and this American dude gets off the bus, and he's like, whoa, that's my cap. Like, what the hell? Like, how did that even get there? And I was like, oh, yeah, we picked it up on the off chance someone was getting on the same bus back, blah, blah, blah. And he was like, man, I didn't even think I'd ever see this again. And he was like the happiest I think I've ever seen anyone ever. Dude thought he'd lost his hat in the middle of nowhere, and we just happened to find it and reunite him with it. And if that isn't Death Stranding. I don't know what is. Delivering someone's lost cargo, basically. I wish I'd filmed it, but how would I know, right? A rank achieved, exactly. Peeing on the cargo. Mark my territory. Oh, look at this. Look at this flimsy ass chain, man. Sketchy as fuck. That's another great photo to show you just how flat the top of that shelf is. Incredibly flat. And yeah, then we came across that. You can't quite tell in this picture, but it's almost a knife edge. Very scary. At least I thought it was scary anyway, just because of how steep it is on one side and the other. And yeah, up into the Fimbrodderhouse Pass. What's this? Is that the caldera for? So it was very foggy up there, and going to see the two volcanoes is a little bit of a detour. So we didn't do it, but we bumped into two German tourists actually, and they'd got themselves a bit turned around. So I cracked out the map and the compass, showed them which way to go, which way was which. I actually drew a compass in the sand. They like dropped their bags down to go off and try and find the volcanoes. So by their bags, I actually like drew a compass for them so they know which way was which, because it was really easy to get turned around. The path up here, I'd read articles and stuff about people who'd done this particular trek before going, and quite a few people had to turn back at Thorsmork down in the valley. They spoke to the wardens before they set out that day and stuff, and the wardens are like, you shouldn't really go up there unless you're super duper experienced, because the path isn't immediately obvious. It is for this section, but then up here, if the weather's really, really adverse, like navigating this is just a nightmare. So when I plotted all of this out, a lot of it I could plot out through, you can see this natural line here from the photos people have uploaded, and you can also see the tracks, right? You can even see it up on this flat sort of. But when you get up here, because the snow shifts and changes, it's hard to see specific definitive paths. You can kind of see one there. Just when this photo, oh, this is actually where we saw those German tourists. It's literally this exact spot. You can kind of see the path there. Anyway, it's easy to get turned around is the point. Very easy to get lost. Before you know it, you're up on this, you know what I mean? On an Arctic expedition. No S rank because George lost the sunglasses. Yeah. Yeah. The last day probably won't be as long. There's not as much to talk about, I don't think. So I'll just roll the last clip and yeah. Oh, the beer. The beer. My God. That cost me £12 for that beer. That one can. But it was amazing. And it was nearly worth all £12. That's all I have to say on that day. From the smallest boulder to the tallest cliff, vast rivers or deep canyons, the world itself is what needs to be beaten and overcome by planning your routes and ensuring you have the right gear to conquer these obstacles and terrain features. Ensuring that the gear is kept in working order and is packed and arranged optimally to maintain balance. And in that respect, Death Stranding excels at being a walking simulator, by offering well thought out and fun mechanisms that approximate real life hiking and land navigation. And when the world is more than just a set piece, but is intrinsic to the story, its themes, and gameplay mechanics alike, Iceland has the character and diversity of terrain that fits this end perfectly. We should have ruined the footage by shouting, "Holy fuck, this is awesome," every 30 seconds. Funny you should say that, because we weren't necessarily shouting that "Holy fuck, this is awesome" every 30 seconds. But a lot of the footage, I had to turn the volume down because we were mostly just chatting absolute shit and you could hear every single word. So I had to, a lot of the footage has the audio removed for the most part because of that, because we're just chatting absolute bollocks. And it wouldn't have been very, wouldn't have been very cool in the video or whatever. I just want to take a second to appreciate, right? So Luke woke up on the last but one day, feeling like absolute shit. He was like being sick and just, he looked like death, right? Think of like one of the worst illnesses you've ever had, right? Just think how shit you feel. He woke up that morning and chose violence on the mountain. Basically, the elevation gain is about 1,311 meters, right? Through from Thorsmork down to most of the way down to Skogar, which is what we did on this third day, fourth day. That's basically Ben Nevis. It's basically a Ben Nevis, basically. Basically. I said that a lot, didn't I? It's essentially like climbing Ben Nevis, and this line comes short by a couple of miles. So over the course of about 13, 14 miles, and essentially a Ben Nevis up and down. And he managed to do that, right, while feeling like absolute shit. And this footage here, right, that waterfall, where is it? Where's the exact... No, it's going to be back, isn't it? So
Best time to make camp and get some rest.
I was
But
collecting
before
this
turning in for the
footage
night,
right here.
with the sun hanging low in the sky, I decided to spend some time perched above the falls of Slide.
The reason I cut that short, that pan shot, was because just off screen, Luke popped. He just spewed everywhere, just absolutely started barking at ants all over the floor. Just barking at ants, right? So I just put the camera away and ran up to check on him, see if he was all right. He was not all right. So we were like, okay, yeah, let's make camp here then. Let's make camp basically by here. Yeah, basically online. It's all body fluid to me. It is all the time. It's shitting, it's spewing. Exactly. So yeah, just shout out to Luke for soldiering on through that. I just realized I was showing pictures. I'm showing some pictures while there was nothing on screen. Yeah, sorry. I was showing you this waterfall. That's where we camped near. Better picture, actually. So we camped near this waterfall because Luke was sick. This was the camp itself, just around the corner from it in a little divot away from the track. Yeah. And there it is again. But this is the view you greeted with.
Roads formed a roof that got gradually higher above our heads as we pressed on, until eventually the terrain sloped away in front of us, and we could see, far off in the distance, where the land met the ocean.
You can kind of see it, right? You can just see the ocean off in the distance. And it looks tantalizingly within reach, but it is freaking miles away. One thing I wanted to do was when we got down to Skogar was make the walk down to the beach. There is a little track, and I figured that would be probably the most appropriate way to end off a Death Stranding related video, right? Trek is to get down to the beach, you know? But it would have taken hours. Like, it's so far. It is, well, it's 3 miles. So bearing in mind, we would have been at the end of the trip. We would have been absolutely knackered after climbing a Ben Nevis. I nearly said basically there then. We would have had to make that 3-mile trek. All before 10 a.m. so that we could get our bus back to Reykjavik. Otherwise, we would have been screwed. But yeah. See you on the beach? Exactly. That was the idea, but it just wasn't going to happen. It wasn't going to happen. And yeah, we made our way down. Any other cool photos? This is a cool one. It's a cool one of Luke overlooking one of the waterfalls. And there were just waterfalls around every corner. It's pretty wild. And then as we got further down the trail, like I said in the video, the track essentially became gravel. It was a gravel track, well maintained. They were building the track, from what I could tell, up the mountain. I don't know how far they plan to go with it, but yeah. So this is Skogafoss. This is the waterfall that was the end point. So that was that, and then we got on the bus. I was freaking starving, and the bus came, and we were a bit late, and I was in the middle of cooking noodles, and I had to throw the noodles away to get on the bus. I was tamping because I was starving hungry. Yeah, so there's waterfalls around every corner. It was insane just following this river all the way down. Some of these waterfalls were actually featured in Game of Thrones as well. There's like one particular scene where there's a kid with a goat, and the dragon like comes up from below the waterfall, kills the kid or whatever, like burns the kid or whatever. That was filmed at one of these waterfalls along here. The worst bit about this entire trip was we had to get a 10 a.m. bus. It was the only bus that went from Skogar back to Reykjavik. And it stopped. Excuse me. Where's the town? Is it this one? I think it is, yeah. We were stopped in this tiny little town for 5 hours, 6 hours. all it had was this supermarket, and there was like a park over there. And I couldn't tell you why the bus stops there for 6 hours before it carries on. It is a nightmare. Like, I do not get why. But we're basically stuck here for 6 hours with nothing to do. Smelly from the trek. The beer was cheap, mind. The beer was like £3 a can instead of £12 a can. I know I sound like a bit of an alcoholic, but you know, I just fancied a couple of beers, you know. Supermarket and a park. It was like being 15 again. Yeah, just hanging around in a park. So yeah, and then when we got back to Reykjavik, there was some cool like graffiti and stuff in Reykjavik. Like, check out this cat. That's a pretty cool cat. Check out this thing. That was actually a photo. There was an art gallery that was selling these like photo prints, like in glass. It wasn't like framed, it was like in the glass. Or they did something weird with it, and they had like, the pictures were going for like $5,000 a piece or something like that. It was outrageous. So this is inside the opera house. That's the ceiling. It's a really cool building. I was going to include this, but I didn't really figure out a way to include it. But it's a Coast Guard boat, which is docked in the harbour there. But they've got the bridge's color scheme, the red, white, and blue. I didn't really know a way to work it into the series, but kind of cool. It's you know, looks like almost like Fragile's boat. And finally, the best calzone I have ever had in my life. Cax Hostel in downtown Reykjavik. That's affordable as well. It's like £10 for a calzone, and an amazing calzone at that. And it's like £4 for a beer. Cheap as chips. And as they say, is that? I think that's all I have to say about Iceland and the trek. But it was incredible, and I want to go back and I want to do it again, except this time I want to do it over a longer distance. But yeah, guys, I think that covers it. So I was going to do a scripted thing going all over the lines and the maps and extra photos and behind the scenes stuff. But I figured I'd just go live with it. We'd cover it all live, and I can chop it up then and stick it as a video, as like a retrospective video onto my YouTube, and maybe add some bits and bobs if there's some other stuff I didn't think of now that I want to talk about. But I think that covers it. Talked about the kit I was using, like my boots and stuff. You know, the journey itself, and yeah. But there will be more trips like this coming from me in 2024. Another big epic one. It'll be filmed more like a travel vlog as opposed to having a tie-in to any kind of game, because this video that I've done is it's one and done, right? Like, I don't even know how I'd follow that up with another IRL mixed with video game thing, you know? So I feel like I struck gold with this and really enjoyed making it, but I don't know how I could follow it up. But there'll be more travel videos next year. There'll be a little one coming out at the end of the year, which will be Metal Gear related. I'm visiting Prague in September, so I'm going to do a short, it's not going to be an hour-long, like, epic video or anything. But it'll be like 10 minutes, and I'll film some stuff in Prague and talk about, you know, just the location, how it is in Metal Gear 4, and how some of the real life locations stack up to the in-game locations, because they actually stack up quite well. I was doing a little bit of research, and like they remade like the clock tower and the central station and things, and it looks one for one. So there'll be like a short little video later, but later in the year, around September time. Yeah, cool dudes. I got nothing else to say, so that's going to be it from me. Thank you very much for tuning in. It has been a pleasure. Till next time, take care of yourselves. Have a good one. And if you haven't seen the videos, if you're just tuning in and haven't seen them, you can catch them there. Peace.